everyone, Jake here. This is my 1939 GE, General Electric, flat top refrigerator. I keep it out here in my shop as a drink fridge, and I just really like this fridge, but it stopped working the other day. So I'm gonna try to repair it, and hopefully you'll be following along with me here as I do my best to record it. Now, a little bit about this fridge. I got it from a guy that said it was working, and I took his word for it and hauled it home, and quickly realized that the electrical plug on it was cracked pretty bad and it needed to be rewired. So I went through the process of rewiring it all, and it worked well for a few months, and then the relay blew on it. And so I went through the process of fixing that relay with a lot of help from internet friends that helped guide me through how to do that, especially YouTuber David A1 Highway Net. I'll put a link to his videos below, but he's really knowledgeable on how to fix these refrigerators, and he helped me out a lot. So, but this time around, I've been checking the continuity on the compressor, and it looks like the compressor's bad, so it's a little bit more involved fix. I've got it pulled away from the wall here, as you can see, so that I can get access to it all around it. And I'm just gonna start diving into it here and to getting this thing fixed, hopefully. So this is actually an old SO2 refrigerator, so it uses the sulfur dioxide as a refrigerant. Here's what the inside looks like. I've got it all cleared out of all the drinks so that I could move it. I've been trying to keep really good notes on what kind of equipment went into this fridge. So just notes on the condenser, the different relays, and kind of the electrical, how it was laid out. And you can see back in the day when I did the continuity check on the windings, what I was getting from a ohm standpoint, and now I'm not getting those same values. In fact, between the common and I think it's the run relay, I'm not getting any continuity at all. So I've got the relay all disconnected here from with the replacement relay that I put in was the Supco relay 3-in-1 start, and it worked well for a few months. But now you can see I'm just not getting any continuity. I've got it disconnected, so I get continuity there between common and the start relay. But between this is kind of hard to do one-handed, but between the different run and the start relay, not getting anything. Between common and run, not getting anything. So I think the compressor is pretty much fried, unfortunately. So the first thing I want to do is get the sulfur dioxide refrigerant out of this unit, in case, I'm just kind of taking this one step at a time here, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to find another compressor to put into the fridge or what's going to happen. But I know one thing, and that's that the sulfur dioxide is not a safe refrigerant to have around, from what I've read on the internet. Everything from it could cause mild reaction and breathing issues all the way to death. So, and it's hard to find. So I don't think putting SO2 back in this refrigerator is a real viable option, even if I am able to fix it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just get to a point where I can access that. And see what we can do about evacuating this. With the top off, you can see where I tied in with my previous rewiring job. The wires here going to the thermostat and then over to the fridge light didn't look that bad, so I didn't bother replacing all of those. I just tied in and ran new wiring down to the relay, from the relay over to the compressor, and then of course the new plug for the back of the fridge. Now this is where I need to get access to in order to drain the sulfur dioxide out of the unit. And to do that, I had to order a special kit that I don't think they make anymore, so I had to get it on eBay. This guy here, hopefully you can see that, but it's got all this access stuff that you can screw on there, and hopefully with this, I think that's the right one actually. Looks like it fits pretty well. So I'll be switching this out. Anyway, I need to figure it out. It comes with the key that you need, the Bristol key, in order to crack this open. And so I'll get that figured out. But one thing I noticed that, unlike David's video online showing how to access a similar port like this on a monitor top fridge, this one does not have a Bristol plug prior to the actual venting plug. So if you can, I'll shine a light down in there and you can see the holes down in the bottom that are for the gas to be released once you back that plug off. So I'm glad I noticed that, because I didn't want to think that I was pulling out just the cat plug and then have gas come out. And so this is the actual venting plug, I guess, that is going to release the SO2. Now, I don't think I want to connect the adapter first off, because this thing I think is going to be a little bit stubborn after 80 something years of being in there. So I feel like I need to break it loose using the key wrench here. But I'm pretty worried, because I think some SO2 is going to come out before I have a chance to retighten it down a little bit. And so I don't know really what to expect here. I haven't ever dealt with SO2 before. I got the doors and windows open here in the shop, but I'm still pretty nervous. And yeah, I guess I'm just gonna have to go for it and hope for the best, and plan on running if the worst happens, and get the heck out of here and apologize to the neighbors for the smell later, I guess. I've moved the fridge outside just to get better ventilation in case anything was to happen. And I'm gonna wear my mask here for what it's worth. I guess having something between the sulfur dioxide in my lungs is better than nothing. It should things go wrong. And gonna use a little bit of a leverage bar here to see if we can get this thing to finally break loose here. Okay, so that actually went a lot easier than I thought. It broke loose, and I don't smell anything yet, so it actually kind of disappoints me. I was actually really hoping to finally get at least a little bit of a whiff of what this infamous toxic SO2 smells like. I hear it's pretty bad, but yeah, so yeah, okay, yeah, it's not super pleasant. Okay, well, it's busted loose now, so I can go ahead and put the actual adapter on it and go from there. First thing you do is you get one of these little seal washers, put it on there, like that. And then this is the one that I already confirmed fits on there correctly. Yeah, that little tiny whiff of SO2 that I got is definitely giving me a little bit of a cough. It is actually pretty nasty stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Bristol adapter on here, and that of course all goes on here together. Actually, I need to back this up a little bit like that. I don't want it engaging just yet. Let's see here. So the inside of this one already has that seal washer on there, as you can see. I guess the trick is getting it all hooked up without that little adapter coming loose or falling in there, not actually engaging anything. Okay, so I will get a wrench and tighten all this stuff down. Okay, seems to be working. So yeah, I'll get a wrench and tighten all this stuff down. So my plan now is I'm going to get a 1/4 inch copper line, put a flare on it, and I'm going to attach that to this port here, and then I'm going to run that copper line into a bucket with a solution of water and lye, and what that does is it neutralizes the SO2. One of the things I did as I was preparing to work on this fridge is I downloaded and printed off the service manual for General Electric refrigerator Scotch yoke machines, which this falls under. And I just got tired of always going to my computer and having to scroll to find things, and I guess I'm just old school. So I printed it off. And in the purging of refrigerant section, it talks about a couple different ways that you can neutralize the SO2. One of them is using a lye water solution, and the other one is using a washing, it's a sodium carbonate washing soda solution. So both of these, regardless of the way, it takes the SO2 and combines it with the sodium hydroxide, and in the case of lye anyway, if you use the lye water solution, it takes the SO2, combines it with sodium hydroxide, and results in sodium sulfite and water. So sodium sulfite has a NEPA H1 health score, and everything else is zeros. So relatively speaking, sodium sulfite is relatively benign compared to the SO2. Now, in the case of using the washing soda, it does the same thing. It results in sodium sulfite, except you get CO2 instead of water as another byproduct of the reaction. So in this case, I just found the lye on the shelf at the store, so I'm going to go with this method. To do that, I'm going to mix a couple pounds of lye into a couple gallons of water and run the tube for the SO2 into that. And hopefully that neutralizes it adequately. All right, so I got my copper tube here, got 10 feet of that, 1/4 inch copper line, and I got my little Harbor Freight flaring kit. I bought this a number of years ago for some job that I was doing. I can't remember what at this point, but having it on the shelf now is coming in handy. So it's always nice. My wife always wonders why I buy tools that I hardly ever use and hang on to them. Well, it's for situations like this, so that I have them when I need them, which is very nice. So I'm going to go ahead and get this flared, and then we'll connect it to the hemostatic valve adapter. Okay, I got a bucket of water here, and I've got this drain opener, which is 100% lye, which is actually sodium hydroxide. So I'm going to go ahead and mix this whole thing. This is 2 pounds of lye. I'm going to mix it all in this water. And just mix it up. Okay, you can pause. Okay, so according to the factory service manual for the fridge, and this lye water solution, a proportion of 1 1/4 pound of lye dissolved in 1 gallon of water will absorb 1 pound of SO2. So I know that there's 2 pounds of SO2 in this machine. So I've used 2 pounds of lye, and I don't imagine we're gonna get the full 2 pounds out of the machine doing it this way. However, I do have a little bit more lye, so I think I'll go ahead and add a little bit more. I figure I have about 3 gallons of water in the bucket, so I'm gonna add a little bit more lye just to make sure that there's no issues. All right, I got the lye mixed up in the bucket with water, copper tube running to the fridge, so I'm gonna go ahead and turn this valve and see what happens. Let's see if I can smell any SO2 coming out of here, which I don't. So apparently the lye solution is doing its job. There's definitely bubbles coming up out of the solution, so something's coming out of the fridge at least. Yeah, I don't smell a thing, so it's evacuating the fridge and not releasing any sulfur dioxide into the air for our neighbors to smell. So, all right, good deal. I'll just let that run for a little while. Well, I've gone through 2 buckets of the lye water solution now, and I'm not sure if I'm just doing it wrong or whatever, but I've used up 4 pounds of lye at this point, and each time there came a point where I was smelling quite a bit of SO2. So I would mix the water during the evacuation and that kind of thing, but and that seemed to help, but eventually it seems like it would just saturate out and you'd start smelling the SO2. So I thought 4 pounds of lye would be plenty, but I've run out. So I do have this partial box of washing soda, so I'm going to try the other version of this neutralization process. I'm going to get this mixed up and keep going, and hopefully we're getting pretty close to having this thing fully done. So now that the SO2 has been going through this soda water for a while, you can see that it's become effervescent. Out here in the dark, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it's bubbling just like an open can of soda would. It's really coming off of that stick for some reason. It's kind of interesting. That's all the carbon dioxide that's in the water now. It's essentially made carbonated water. And there's really not a very strong smell of SO2 coming out of this, even though it's effervescent at this point. I have it turned down really low. I mean, it's just barely trickling out of there. All right, it's been a few weeks. I got COVID and I had to go on a business trip and a whole bunch of other stuff. Trying to get back going on the fridge project now. In the meantime, I've ordered in a bunch of stuff that hopefully will help me fix this. So I got some flux and some solder, some Stay Bright 8, manifold gauge set, vacuum pump, a watt meter, some taps, a can tap, some of these things to be able to convert it over to the modern 1/4 inch Schrader valves. Got some air dryers. They came in a big pack. I only need one, but that's the way it goes sometimes. And I got some of these other threaded solder valves, a line expander so I can solder some joints. I got some 1/8 inch tubing, copper tubing in case I need it. I got this nitrogen tank cylinder and valve, and last but not least, of course, is a new compressor for the fridge. Now, this is a 1/8 inch compressor. I was quite surprised to see how much smaller it is than the 1/8 inch compressor that's currently on the fridge. I'm hoping that, well, just like a lot of things over time, they've reduced the size of them and kept them just as efficient and things, you know, back in the day when cell phones were huge bricks and now they are much smaller. Hopefully that's the case here and this thing's able to run this fridge. But it is quite a bit smaller. I made sure to get the one that is cooled statically, and this one is got the right oil for R134A. So I'm still kind of debating on what refrigerant I'm going to go with on this one. It's kind of a toss-up for me between R134A and R152, so I'm still just kind of trying to decide. Thinking I'll go with the 134A because I'm having a really hard time finding 152. I know I can buy it in an air duster formulation, but like the air dusters, every one I find, it comes with the bitterant added to it, and I don't know what that stuff is. And I don't think having bitterant, whatever chemical that is mixed in with it, would be very good from a refrigeration standpoint. So I'd just rather not put that into the system. So, I don't know, I might have to just bite the bullet and go with the R134A, but honestly I don't know if this fridge is going to run that stuff very well. Everything I find online finds it, you know, it's one of those things that's a little hard to convert from the sulfur dioxide over to the 134A, so I don't know. But I'm going to get to the point where I can hopefully pull a vacuum on this and hold it, and then I will keep investigating what refrigerant to go ahead and dump in this thing. So my next step is going to be to start cutting these lines, taking the condenser off the back and pulling out the old compressor, and then working on soldering in the new compressor. What I'm going to do down here is I'm going to make a little plate for that new compressor to sit on down in here. And yeah, there's going to be a lot more open space in here, obviously, with that little dinky compressor. So we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, then this has all been a very expensive attempt at fixing the fridge, and sometimes education is expensive, and I will not be happy that I didn't end up getting it running, but at least I can say I tried and I learned something along the way. And then I guess I'll just be getting rid of this one and hopefully finding another vintage refrigerator that actually works. So anyway, I'm gonna tear into this and see what happens. Okay, I got the machine all removed from the refrigerator cabinet now, and I have kind of jury-rigged up this little holder here, just using the cabinet as counterbalance to hold this all up. And it was actually a lot easier to pull that out than I was anticipating. It wasn't really a very hard task at all, just one bolt on the compressor underneath, and a couple screws on the back here, a couple nuts to remove down at the bottom, and just lift it on out of there, and it slid right on out. So now I can work on it out here in the open. And my next task will be to just start removing this old compressor off of here, so I can rig up some kind of a mounting plate that screws onto these original holes to hold the new compressor. Alright guys, so I got all my lines hooked up to the compressor now. Got those soldered on. Not really much to say about that, other than I had a little bit of issues with expanding some of the tubing in order to get it on, in order to form the joint. And I ended up ordering this bigger tubing that was actually the proper size that I didn't have before. And that made things a lot easier. I went ahead and put 100 pounds of nitrogen in there, and now I've got that nitrogen turned off the tank, and I'm just doing a little bit of a pressure test here. I've wetted everything down with soapy water, didn't see any bubbles, and just gonna let this sit for a while and just keep an eye on these gauges, and hopefully they don't drop very much, if any. Hopefully they just kind of stay where they're at. And then I still do need to put on my filter dryer up here, which I haven't done yet, but I figured doing a pressure test now would be good since I got the compressor all hooked up, and can at least verify that I did that correctly before spending too much time. Alright, just a little update. So I got the vacuum pump running down here. Done the vacuum. Been going for about a half hour now. Don't see the pressure dropping anymore at this point. Just kind of holding steady for the last while. But gonna let it run for a little bit. Try to get as much whatever out of there as possible. I worked on the electrical. Got that hooked up, I think. I hope. There's no, I got this little wiring diagram that came with the compressor, but other than that, from the fridge side of things, hope I got it right. Guess we'll find out. But so far, so good. Went over to AutoZone and bought some R134A. Got it right here. Picked up 4 cans of this. I doubt I'll need that many, but we'll see. And that's what's going in it. I was looking for the duster cans because I really wanted to use the R152, but can't find any that don't have that bitterant added in to the dusters to keep people from huffing them. And I'm not sure what that chemical is, the bitterant, but I don't really want it in my refrigeration system. So just going to go with the 134A and hope it works out all right. We will see. Okay, I just put my first can of refrigerant in. It was at a vacuum, and now once I put the refrigerant in, I'm getting a little over 80 psi on the low side and just about 100, well, not quite 100, about 75 on the high side there. So I'll turn this thing on and see what happens and start adding more. Went ahead and used the air duster to charge it, and this is what the pressures are looking like. These valves are closed off at this point. Took about 3 cans of this. I think that's enough. The frost line looks good, but I'm just using this electronics duster. I couldn't find one without the bitterant. I was trying really hard. This stuff has a bitterant added to it to prevent people from huffing it. And I don't know what that'll do to the system or whatnot, but I don't know. I just finally just threw in the towel and used this stuff, and it seems to be working just fine. So that's good. But this is the difluoroethane air duster. This has been on for about a day and a half now, and as you can see, It is getting very frosty. I put some water in here to help create a little bit of frost, and it is iced over. So I've turned this way down, but yeah, it's a solid, block now. So this fridge is definitely working. That was just water yesterday. So I had to turn it way down. There's still a little bit of water under the surface there, I think. So maybe it's getting a little too cold actually, but you can see in here, frost forming on the sides up there. It's definitely getting frosty. Very quiet with the new compressor, which unfortunately doesn't have that good old vintage sound, but you know, at least it's working and another fridge has been saved from the scrapyard. That's good. It's just going away there. So I'm about to disconnect these lines and just button it all back up together again and just start using it, because it seems to be working just fine. So very happy that I was able to get this thing going again after having that bad compressor. They're just cycled off. So cycling on and off. Hear that? Just cycled off. My little tray I made to hold the compressor is working fine. I was gonna put a little bracket between here and here just to support that front lip. I might still do that, but honestly, this thing seems just fine. There's no real vibration and it hardly weighs anything. So I'm not sure if that's needed or not. There's sure a lot of space under here now without that giant old compressor going, and I'm excited to put a energy meter on this and see how many kilowatts this thing's actually using over time. But I want to get it loaded up with stuff first to just see how much energy use it takes. And if it's a little bit too much, I think maybe I will take it back apart and redo the insulation, because right now I'm still using the old school insulation that it came with, and you can feel it. It is cool to the touch, so there's obviously some energy loss through the refrigerator shell. And if I put in the hard foam insulation, it might help with that, but I don't know. That stuff's pretty expensive too, so it'd probably take a while for it to pay itself off unless this thing is using quite a bit of energy. So we'll see. But as of right now, I'm just loving that this thing is working again. Very happy. It was not an easy chore to tear this thing apart and learn a lot. I learned a ton. I got the books, I did the reading, learned how to deal with refrigerator systems, had to order special tools off of eBay to make it happen, order special valves to fix it, and just learned a ton along the way. And I thank David the most, because his videos were very instrumental in helping me work on this. So thank you, David. Thank you for that content, and because of it, I was able to get my shop fridge working again, and I'm ready for some nice cold drinks. All right, there we have it. Working good. Drinks are cold. Gets very cold even at a very low setting. And staying nice and frosty. Very cold. Back in business.